Hey guys, Epengu here with Tafokints and 2 microphones. I listened to your guys' comments on Shine 2017 Day 2. Tafo, how you feeling?
Feeling good. I love Boston. It's been really great to be around, and the weather has been phenomenal.
Yeah, it's been really, really sunny. I was actually sweating outside during my earlier interviews. You have the interesting position of having to look out for your own bracket run and also Mang0's bracket run. Do you want to say anything about managing both those two things?
Well, for this event, since I red-eyed, I actually decided not to play.
Oh, okay.
So less to juggle. I did commentary for a little bit, but I'm done for the weekend in terms of personal responsibilities. So the only thing I really have to do is get the Mang0 win for the weekend.
Mang0's coming off a pretty hot streak. He just won SmashCon. He's been on a pretty good run before that. People are starting to seed him as number 2 again. Well, number 1 for this tournament because Armada's not there. What do you owe that recent success to?
We hit a little bit of a downturn earlier this year with Yahoo and a few other events. I think we've developed a pretty good routine. The Falco's been really consistent. We've had some close calls, so it's not like we're running away with every event, but we have figured out enough that I think we feel pretty confident that at the very least we'll hit grand finals, if not win the events. Well,
you just mentioned Falco, and I actually wanted to ask you about Mang0's character choices because he's went pretty much all Falco at SmashCon, but we've also seen some interesting counter picks like the Mario coming out for Axe, and you mentioned that was something you guys talked about. You want to elaborate on that counter pick?
So one of the biggest issues we've had in the past is just the prone to tilting. So what tends to happen against a character or a player that can chain grab on FD or Gimp is we'll win game 1 and then we lose game 2 on FD. And then Mang0 tilts away the next 2 games.
Okay.
So to mitigate that, we kind of said, well, you did pretty well at Summit against Axe's Pikachu as Mario, and you're not going to get chain grabs. So I think this is a pretty good pick for you, and it'll help you stay loose and happy.
Okay. And then why so much Falco recently and not Fox?
We always thought that Mang0 at heart was a Falco main. I think the big thing here was a little because streams only show the later matches, it's always been the Falco that carries Mang0 to top 8. And then when Armada or Hungrybox come in, then we have to switch to the Fox. But for most matchups, actually, he's been picking Falco for a while and very rarely picks Fox.
Okay. I want to also ask, because one counter pick that you've dabbled with in the past, that Mang0 has dabbled with at least, is the Marth. Have you guys been talking at all about using that, possibly for Armada on FD, avoiding that counter pick with chain grabbing?
Yeah, it's a very similar philosophy with the chain grabbing, but one thing we've noticed with Armada, and you can look through history, that whenever Mutaking or Mang0 changes a character, Armada takes a little bit of time to adjust, usually a half a game to a full game. So by switching characters every game, it forces Armada to have to think and readapt the characters. So even if we throw away the FD game, which chances are we're losing 90% of the time, it makes Armada adjust to the character that he has to play against, and then have to readjust the game after.
Do you think switching from Falco to Fox is a possibility in that matchup to throw him off?
We're thinking about different options. We have a bunch of characters. We have a bunch of characters that we are thinking about rotating. I don't want to reveal too much, but the idea is we do have different ideas, and we think that if Armada is preparing for one character specifically, he's really good at it. At Genesis 4, I noticed he took some notes on Mang0's Fox. He had a page of notes, so I knew right there, maybe when I saw that, I was thinking, should we play Falco? But the Falco wasn't ready, so having options is going to be really important for us.
Do you think that maybe the meta in general is moving more towards that sort of trend of having a cast of characters to rotate between? Because we've seen all of the top players pretty much, with the exception of Leffen, use that counter-picking strategy. Even Plup now has a cast of 3 that he rotates between.
I think counterpicking works as long as you're proficient, really good with all the characters, because chances are the other players aren't good at all the matchups, so they're going to have holes on certain stages or certain characters. The beauty of Falco is that, unfortunately, because PPMD is out and no other Falco has really stepped it up other than maybe West Bowls, Falco has kind of become that Pikachu or that Yoshi at top level where everybody's forgotten how to play against Falco at high level, and you see a lot of people just have no idea what to do against Mang0's.
Right. So it's a constantly shifting meta then. Okay, cool. So you mentioned that you didn't enter at this tournament, and that's because of flight stuff. But do you think that as you start to participate more and more as Mang0's coach and with your other endeavors, writing articles, making video content, that your play is taking a backseat, or is it the opposite?
I think my play has definitely taken a big backseat. Last year, I did pretty well at Shine. I got 17th, and that's before I became a coach. I got 25th last year at SmashCon, so I was getting results, but I've just been way too busy, and I haven't been able to practice doing other stuff. So like I'm probably not even like a top 200 player at this point anymore with like how far I've fallen off. So definitely it's taken me a step back in terms of competitively playing.
How do you feel about that? I mean, for a lot of people, that you play Melee to win, so to have that take a backseat could, I imagine, be sort of hard.
I mean, it's definitely like bittersweet because finally, like I don't have to pay for my flights or carry on a lot of these expenses because I get to do the other stuff. But you know, it's frustrating to lose to people that I think I could beat if I was in practice. But that's kind of trade-off. I'm not as young as I used to be, so like I don't really have that fire or drive to like win every set or try to become the best. So like I've kind of come to terms with it.
Do you think maybe the fact that you don't have that drive allows you, or not that you don't have that drive, but that you know that it's not just there for yourself anymore, that allows you to have a more tempered perspective on Mang0's victories and his play, watching from an outside perspective?
I think it does because, I mean, it's nice that I can kind of just take this like step back and just watch everything kind of from an unbiased perspective. And it's really cool that I get to work with Mang0, who has the tech skill, who has the ability and the knowledge that far exceeds me, and kind of just temper and work with him to create routines to help him succeed. I always felt like I've always been the guy that like in high school or college, whatever, has always been the counselor, like, or the person that people always ask advice from. So it feels nice that I get to serve that capacity, at least in Melee too.
Yeah, you know, that's actually something I want to, if you say you're outside of the top 200 now, it's really interesting that we just saw Bobby Siege picked up as a coach full-time by CLG for PewPew and SFAT. And those three main coaches, you, Crunch, and Bobby Siege, are all good players in their own right, but not exactly top players. So do you want to speak a little bit to how that skill disparity comes into play in coaching?
I mean, like, easily, like, Mang0's going to 3 to 4 stock me when he wants. I think the most important thing in terms of the relationship between the coach and the players is not so much the skill. I think Bobby Siege plays, like, fighting games, so I used to play. Crunch plays at a decent enough level that we can at least comment on the holes or some of the players' blindside. But more like we have, I think, a little bit more life experience in the players, so we give it an additional insight. And I think the key thing of the relationship between the coach and the players is the friendship and the relationship and the trust you bring. So, like, you can get a better player to give advice, but, like, for Mang0, he's only going to listen or trust a certain type of player. And PewPew and SFAT with Bobby Siege, they have, like, a 10-year-old long friendship. And so when Bobby Siege brings in this life routine advice, they're going to trust that to listen to him and actually follow through on what Bobby Siege wants to do.
That's really interesting, actually, because right before this interview, we were talking about League of Legends and about Koma, the coach for SKT, who is known for being, you know, a real. He really pushes his players really hard, and he obviously has a relationship with them. But it sounds like the Smash, as it is in so many other things, is unique in the relationship you need for coaching because it's a one-on-one thing, and because experience just can't be taught as much.
Yeah. I mean, I think the relationship dynamics between our Korean team in League and us is that if you're not performing up to par in League, you get replaced. Mang0 by any means is not going to get replaced by another player.
Right.
So the challenge we have is finding shared interests that will incentivize Mang0 to continue to improve, while like also having this communication and this line of trust and this relationship that I can tell him something and he's going to listen to it, and like he's motivated intrinsically to do what I say.
Do you think that hypothetically, if Koma were to coach Melee, or if a Korean coach with all of that dedication, that hard work were to coach Melee, do you think we could see someone drastically improve or shoot ahead of the rest of the pack, even within their own skill level?
So I think overall, like, let's say let's add to the hypothetical, like a top 100-ish player that has like a base skill set.
Sure.
I think they can improve, and I think that's mainly because even like when you look at the top level, everyone's like practice regimen's really poor.
Right.
I think there's a lot of room for improvement. But the other thing you have is the cultural difference between North America and Korea, where this is also very commonplace in League, where the players just, I mean, with a few exceptions, I think TSM does a pretty good job of motivating their players to work really hard. The culture is very different, where like I don't think we're as try-hard as Korea. So finding that type of player that's willing to put in the work is also half the battle.
That makes sense. Are there any players that you guys look to? I mean, obviously, when we talked last, you compared coaching Mang0 to training a Charizard, training as Charizard. So obviously, Mang0's going to do what he wants. But are there any players you guys look to for inspiration in terms of training regimen, in terms of mindset, dedication to practice?
I mean, like, I've been reading books on coaching right when I started, just to see like how other people do it. I read a book of a trainer that used to train Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, and like what he goes through. And we'll talk about quotes that come from the book, and like just kind of the stories that Kobe has or what Michael Jordan has in terms of like how hard they work to get to where they are. And so we kind of share that. And then for Mang0, he doesn't immediately respond. It's something like you tell him certain things, and he needs time to process it. And then maybe 2 to 3 months later, he'll say on his stream an idea that we've been discussing, but then he'll call it the Mang0. But at the very least, like, I don't want to take credit or anything, but like I do know that it does take him time. And so I just kind of just try to share things in passing when we eat dinner. It's like, oh, hey, this is what this person does. Or I might say like a line that might catch his attention, and then 2 to 3 months later he processes it and understands it.
Okay, so we all know what the Tafo is. The Tafo is run, pass, cheek, forward, smash. That's the Tafo. Everyone knows that. But if there's a coaching thing that's the Tafo, or an idea that's the Tafo in your coaching style, what's the Tafo there?
It's the ultimate inception. It's making it so that Mang0 thinks he thought about it on his own, but it was actually secretly guided by me. So I'm a puppeteer, and whenever he thinks of an idea that he like thought about on his own, I'm like, yes, like I got it instilled in him.
Okay. Thanks so much for the interview, Tafo. Any last shout-outs, words you want to say before we finish?
Shamelessly plugging in all the C9 sponsors. Thanks to HEC for doing these videos. Thanks to you. And also T-Mobile for sponsoring C9.
Cool, great. All right, thanks again, Tafo. Thanks so much. Here at Shine 2017, I'm Epengu. Oh, Epengu, wow. You can follow this YouTube channel for more coverage this weekend and follow Tafokints on social media. Thanks, guys.